How do you feel about your body?
I feel as though I'm in a good place with my body. I've come to an acceptance of it as I've got older, and although some of the changes feel dramatic, I feel much more at home in my body than I did for quite a few years going through the menopause. And I cycle, and not long distances, but to work, and I cycle every day. And it reminds me of that freedom you have when you first learn to ride a bike, and for most people, and certainly me, that was quite a young child, when you inhabit your body and it's just something you don't think about. And that's a lovely thing to recapture after going through phases. As you get older, you think, oh, my knee aches or my hip aches, or I can't do that. So all in all, I'm in a good place, I think, with my body right now.
And does it affect the way you feel about yourself?
Most definitely. For me, I feel as though there was a disconnect for quite some time, or sometimes when you don't even think about your body, and then the realisation when you look in the mirror, the person you feel inside is not who's staring back at you. So there was a time, I suppose, when you're quite surprised at how you look when you get out of the shower or you're drying yourself and you catch sight of yourself in a mirror and you think, gosh, that's, is that really my body? It looks like my mother's body, or it doesn't look like me. And I think that's a big period of adjustment, which I feel I've come through now.
And have there been any life events which have impacted the way you feel, and how did they impact you?
I think there are two main ones, mainly the menopause, which kind of coincided with COVID for me. And so I was quite fortunate in a lot of symptoms I didn't have, or they didn't distress me too much. But it was a huge period of change in lots of ways. And it felt like I wasn't in my own body. It was like something I was observing. I felt quite disconnected from it and quite separate from it in a way that I was observing it and not liking it. And the impact of COVID meant that I wasn't as active as I had been. And I emerged from COVID feeling as though I wasn't me. I had, started to get aches and pains, and like a lot of people, I'd put on some weight, and I felt like the body I was in wasn't mine.
And what's been the biggest factor in the way you feel about yourself?
I think after COVID, I made some changes. I felt like I needed to take up some more exercise. I'd been quite active as a young person. And then gradually, life and work and family responsibilities kind of take over, and you kind of make less time for that. So I took up a new sport, started to get fit, and started to feel quite amazing, really. And I felt like I reclaimed my body from something it was turning into that I didn't really like, which is, middle-aged spread, or people saying, your mature body as a woman, it just changes shape. But the changing shape wasn't really me. So although I wasn't after recapturing the body that I had at 19, 20, but I did feel as though I'd kind of become myself again in a kind of way that was appropriate to my age. But I feel really fit and really invigorated.
And has the culture you're from informed the way you feel about your body?
I think that's an interesting one. I kind of grew up in, kind of a very accepting kind of world, but I think my home life, nobody ever made a fuss about what you looked like or what you ate, but I do feel as though society views me in a particular way because I'm quite short and I'm quite small, and people's perceptions of that is quite interesting because people see you in a particular way, I think.
What kind of way?
People think you can't do things, or they try and protect you, or I think definitely size at either extreme makes people view you in a particular way. It's quite difficult to describe. So men might try and be protective, or women might not like you very much because you're naturally small and naturally slimmish, and that sometimes triggers quite negative responses. It's not something I notice particularly now, and I do wonder if certainly my children's generation is much less judgmental and more accepting of the way people look.
And do you think that others' perception of you affects the way you feel about yourself?
I've thought about this a lot because my hair went white quite early on, and it's quite funny watching other people's responses to that. So I can be on a train and somebody will offer me a seat, which is very kind and thoughtful of them. And I'm thinking, are you doing that because I look old, or you perceive me to be old? Whereas actually I'm normally off to go and do something like, go bouldering, or, go for a, 10-mile walk or something. So I find that quite interesting. But that's less to do with size, I think, and more to do with people's perceptions of what a person with white hair would be. And it does make me, it amuses me, to be honest, because inside I think we all feel about 19, and that's not how other people perceive you.
And do you think social media has impacted the way you feel about yourself at all?
I think I was fortunate to grow up and develop and go through my teens and 20s before social media was even a thing, and I feel very, very lucky that was the situation. For me, I think it's been a positive thing, partly because I don't post very often on social media, and certainly not pictures of myself, because there aren't all that many I feel that I really like or that feel like me. So I guess when I do post them, it's forced me to look at images of myself in a much more positive way. So normally family photographs, I'd be going, oh no, I'm making that face again, or oh gosh, I look dreadful. Whereas actually, occasionally it's nice to post photographs of things that you've done, and you kind of think, oh, that's a nice one. And you think, oh, yeah, I look like that. And that's fine, because that's the age I am. And yeah, so for me, ironically, in maybe lots of ways, social media's provided me with a positive way to view my own image.